Kimberly Crail is a wise woman, herbalist, and educator who came from Wall Street to the weeds. Casey's mission is to teach folks how to heal themselves using whole plants and foods as medicine. You can heal yourself with simple and inexpensive methods, foods, and herbs. And now, here's the host of Weeds of Wisdom, Kimberly Crail.
Hi, welcome to Weeds of Wisdom. This is Kimberly Crail, the wise woman, herbalist, and educator. It is Tuesday, February 10th, and I'm very excited. My guest tonight is a beautiful woman that I met at the Full Disclosure Now conference right here in sunny St. Pete, Florida, last year. She's an absolutely beautiful soul, and I'll tell you a little bit about her. She is a Pleiadian channel. Her name is Soma ARah. She is a Galactic Lightworker and a Pleiadian channel. And she's a Pleiadian and Lyran Starseed hybrid with a profound mission to assist humanity during this era of Ascension. Known as a Pleiadian Ambassador and Warrior of the Heart, she has served as a channel for the Pleiadians since childhood, sharing their wisdom to inspire, uplift, and guide humanity toward higher frequencies and a new earth. As a healer, visionary, and intuitive, Soma ARah embodies many roles: Ascension guide, empowering individuals to navigate the path of awakening and personal transformation. She's also a psychic medium and starseed reader, offering profound insights through Akashic Records and multidimensional connections. She's a Lightworker and an Empath, sharing healing energy as a Reiki Master, shamanic practitioner, and channel for divine light. Her spiritual journey began at age 8, marked by conscious connection with Pleiadians. At 12, a life-changing, out-of-body experience with Jesus redirected her path, leading her to meditate and study esoteric teachings. Guided by the Pleiadians, she received direct education through downloads, transmissions, and spiritual teaching, bypassing traditional schooling. Soma ARah's work spans channeling, readings, courses, workshops, and books, including The Pleiadian Child and What's Really Going On. Through these offerings, she channels the wisdom of the Pleiadians to assist humanity in evolving into crystalline beings of light. Her mission aligns with the ancient Galactic collective, often referred to as the 144,000, dedicated to raising planetary frequencies and creating a harmonious new Earth. As Galactic Grandmother April Cordner described, chosen by our ancient galactic cousins to communicate the messages for humanity. Soma ARah serves as a beacon of light and transformation, inspiring growth, healing, and spiritual awakening. The CEO of Cosmic Starseeds Academy. Come join us. And if you want to connect with Soma, you can follow her work at substack.com/@Soma ARah. So without further ado, please welcome Soma.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's so nice and refreshing to finally be able to sit down with you one-to-one. And thank you for that beautiful introduction.
You're a very special person. You know, we have this interesting mission here at this time on Earth, and so, you know, you're very much connected with the stars. I'm very much connected with Mother Gaia, and I think that our missions serve each other serve one another beautifully.
They do. I think they're very intertwined, and I think both are needed to, often in my past, I've been very ungrounded and very kind of out there somewhere. And I think that was due to some of the trauma but also I came in kind of back to front. I came in with all of the spiritual. And what I've often lacked in the past, and sometimes still now, is I've lacked being grounded and having my feet on the earth. And often I'm shown an image of a spiral coming down, and I'm shown that I need to connect to the Galactics and my cosmic family and the Pleiadians, which I am connected to, but to connect with them and in a spiral of energy, bringing that spiral into my body and go and stand on the land barefoot and bring in that energy and anchor it in through my feet into the earth. So I think the earth-based people and the galactic people, I think they are one and the same, but I think they're working with different energies that are both needed to anchor in and blend and unite the energies.
Right. No, I completely agree. And it's interesting because in my work, and I since I did my shamanic herbal apprenticeship in 2008, I've met people who, there are people who work with the green, and then there are people who work with like the stones. The energy of the stones is quite different from the energy of the plants. The plants are very high frequency, around a lot, and the stones are very low frequency. They're very, but they all offer healing. And I think that's the key, isn't it? Everything is frequency and vibration. The universe is if you really think about it, an enormous symphony of different frequencies, and that's every frequency creates a new, everything that is vibrating a different frequency, that we see, right? And so I think it's really just a matter of, how we apply it. It's still all a matter of frequency and energy.
It is, and we've been deliberately disconnected from Mother Earth and the stones and the trees and the plants and the sun and the earth itself and the animals and all of nature. Really, we've been so disconnected, even to the point of having plastic shoes deliberately, and our clothing as well is becoming better known that we need to be wearing cotton and linen and more natural fibers and wool. And years ago when I was doing I love that you're shamanic. And years ago when I was doing my shamanic training, I was taught that the stones themselves, just little pebbles are very little stones, are very healing. They don't have to be crystals.
Right.
And I've seen that there's so much disclosure coming out recently, not just about aliens and UFOs and all of that, but also I've seen so many videos and images and pictures about the large trees that used to exist on Earth and the giants that were turned to stone or appear to have turned to stone. And can you imagine living in a world with trees that huge? It must have been just heaven on earth.
It's incredible. I know some of those large, what they thought were mountains, are actually tree stumps. And some people have now are speculating that the pink salt is actually giant blood. So I find that really fascinating. So, I mean, there's clearly, been, the Earth has apparently been around for, I don't know, about 4 billion years or so. And, clearly there were civilizations here previously. And many of my audience have heard the tales of Lemuria and Atlantis and the other civilizations. I think that it seems to me that we weren't quite as dense then as we are now. It seems that we've become quite dense as we have lowered our frequency over the millennia. What is your opinion on that?
I think so. In what I've been shown, Kimberly, is that at the downfall of Atlantis was caused by negative ET energies invading Earth and Atlantis, and there was several kind of aspects or events that occurred during that time that they instigated and put into place. And one was a large object or asteroid hitting the Earth, causing her to shift off her natural axis. And then they also changed our DNA, and we began to forget who we were, where we were from, why we were here. And during the time of Atlantis, all of us were able to communicate with our star brothers and sisters telepathically. That was a natural, a bit innate ability that we all had. And now it's starting to come back, and we're starting to kind of, and they have said as well that it's a parallel timeline between Atlantis and now, and that in Atlantis we chose to devolve, and now we get to evolve. And surprisingly, they have said to me that we will not let you devolve this time, because the Ascension is not limited to Earth. It affects the whole universe, including the Pleiadians and all of our galactic brothers and sisters. So it's a really important time on Earth. And they've also said that we've had several thousand previous lifetimes in order to prepare for this one now, which is really epic and off the scale in terms of how important it is, and our ascension, because our ascension is not limited to us or humanity or Earth. It affects everything within the universe. So it's kind of epic and off the scale.
Right. Well, and the way I think about it is, rather than ascension, I think about it as expansion. I mean, the universe is constantly expanding, and this I think I mentioned to you this book that I read, the Gaia Project. I think it's the Gaia Project 2012. It was written back in 2010, I think. But the whole premise there is that the Earth is actually, Gaia is a project that is 6 billion years old, and it was essentially a place where, there are different frequency beings throughout the universe. And usually, if you're vibrating at a certain frequency / dimension, you're in a particular star system, right? And so let's say the 10th dimensional and the 9th dimensional, they all inhabit their various star systems. But Earth, Gaia, was an experiment where all the different dimensional frequency energies could come and physically incarnate and interact to create a special kind of energy that would help with the expansion or ascension of the universe, so to speak. So that's sort of the Cliff Notes version of that. And so I don't know if somebody interfered with that, or if that was the original plan. I really can't speak to that. It's really a fascinating concept to me. But I also really feel like, you're right. It's a different time. And I know people have talked about, we're coming out of, what do you call it, the Kali Yuga, this 20,000 year sort of down cycle. And so we're entering a new space where the frequencies are higher. So I think that we are on the cusp of something. I'm just not sure that we are going to need our physical bodies going forward. Do you have thoughts on that?
I don't think we will.
I don't think we will either.
I don't think we will at all. And for your viewers listening that are wanting the science behind it, of what we're speaking of, Greg Braden is my go-to when it comes to the science of especially with what they channel, with a lot of it, to do with cycles. But we are stepping into a more crystalline human being. And they have said, and when I say they, I do mean the Pleiadian Collective, and specifically Ashtar, Commander-in-Chief. They have said that they are us that they are in the future, and that we are them. So, and they have said as well that something went wrong. So now they're kind of have come back to assist us to kind of correct the wrongness that was done. And I've come to understand on a deeper level that and I could be wrong, but I've come to understand on a deeper level that everything contains both good and bad. And of course on a higher level as well. But they have said that they made mistakes in the past, and that they've come back to assist us in us kind of realigning with the mistakes. And recently I've been asking myself, is one of the mistakes AI? Do we go into a negative timeline? But I don't think we do. I think that it is possible and highly likely that there is a divide between with the two Earths, which is something else they showed me, and that seems to be becoming wider. So is it okay to share this, Kimberly?
Of course, yes, you can share your screen. I think
Thanks.
you have permission.
Thanks. So
you were looking to share your screen, or
no?
Oh, okay. No. But yeah, you can speak freely, anything that you want to talk about.
Thank you. So back in 2019, 2020, when those current events were in play, I hadn't channeled the Pleiadians for a couple of years because I had other stuff going on in my life. But I got very anxious, and I went into the garden and connected to them. I had a huge garden at the time, which was just beautiful. It was really large, but it was a communal garden. And I went into the garden and channeled the Pleiadians, and they gave me a whole downloads of information about at the time. And one of the things, which is what the book, what's going on now, what's really going on is about. But anyway, they had said to me that, because I'd often heard about the two Earths, and I could never get my head around how that was possible. But they showed me visually how it was going to occur. And they said that in January of that year, it must have been 2020, either January or February, that there was an intense energy hitting the Earth at the time. And it would become so intensified and increased that it would cause the Earth to energetically multiply into two Earths, and that one would go into a higher frequency vibration energy, and one would stay where it was or drop into an even lower frequency energy vibration. So when they showed me that, I really had a very clear understanding in my mind of how that was going to occur, just through intense energy hitting the Earth, which was intentional at the time and of a very positive nature. So I know Dolores Cannon did speak of that, but I could never get my head around it, and that was how I was able to understand it visually.
Interesting. Well, I know that, and I'm sure you have studied these topics a lot more than I have. I mean, I'm fairly new to the to this whole disclosure movement, but my understanding is a lot of what brought Atlantis down was the hubris and the ego of the men there who insisted on genetic, creating chimeras and other genetic things, and probably AI as well. My personal feeling is, well, I'm very much, the native and indigenous perspectives are the ones that I look to for the real wisdom, because it's, at least in terms of medicine, we can see all the time that, science is constantly catching up. with the ancient native wisdom in that respect. And, you know, the Hopi have a prophecy. It's called the Timeless Warning. And it says, we have two paths. One path represents technology, separate from nature, that leads to destruction. The second path is harmony with nature that will result in a paradise. And in fact, this is on a stone, an ancient stone, and it's carved. There's two paths, you know, and the one path is the technology path ends at the edge. The one with the nature, it continues on around the edge of the stone. So I'm fascinated by that. I know that, you know, people are quite, how shall I say, infatuated with AI. And, you know, my friends are, oh, look at this cute picture I just made of myself with AI. And, you know, the thing that, you know, being an economist, right, I worked in finance for a lot of years, I always look at the cost benefit. So, okay, so what does AI cost? It costs all of our water and all of our power. And what is the benefit? Oh, I made a cute video. Oh, I made a cute meme. Oh, I looked something up faster. Oh, gee, I lost my job because of AI, because now I've been replaced. So from my perspective as an economist, it can't possibly be for these good purposes. The real purpose of AI has to be enslavement. And so this is why I do not interact with AI and encourage others not to as well. Did you know that making one short AI video consumes 3 liters of water?
Wow.
3 liters of water. Think about that. You know, so to my mind, I think this is our challenge, but I also think that it is almost impossible for men to say no to things. You know, if they can, they will. There's no, I don't know. I don't know what it's about. There's something about that energy of power over that has to shift. It has to, and to your point, dark and light, good and evil. I often say that light and dark are lovers, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, because if you look at, and if you use the yin yang analogy, right, the light and the dark, they keep each other spinning in dynamic disequilibrium, and there's a piece of each other inside of each, right? There's a piece of the black and the white, and there's a piece of the white and the black.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, you can't, you know, shout at the darkness for being dark, right? Because if there was no darkness, I mean, darkness is deep and nourishing too. So I think that we as a culture have gotten into this very dualistic mode of thinking where it has to be either or, and this is good and that must be bad, as opposed to seeing how all the things really interweave with each other to create this beautiful natural symphony. And then the final point, and I'll get off my soapbox, but I also am encouraged because I know that Source is a lot smarter than man. So whatever man decides to put together, I used to say Mother Nature always bats last. So I'm not concerned that they will steal our souls or any of that business, but they can wreak a lot of havoc. But yeah, I'm quite concerned about AI, only because I see it being really the road to the digital prison. So this is my point.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that. And Greg Braden is also very concerned about it as well. He's someone that I followed for, you know, for a long time, and I haven't kind of, I've stayed with him because I love his work and what he's doing. But I think
he did the book, or I did a class with him, Pure Human, I think he called it. Pure Human. Yeah, he's got a recent course or book he's offered called Pure Human. And so yeah, I love Greg Braden. I love his energy. He's great.
yeah, he seems to have been put onto this planet for exceptional reasons. And I love his energy. I think he's very pure-hearted. And he does talk about transhumanism a lot, and how I think part of the AI movement is is that they want to take us into transhumanism. And
Well, if people want to learn more, because we have a lot of information, they can also see the study results and go through a lot of stuff. Or if they want to purchase, you guys are going to have to provide a link. Yeah. Now, there's no membership fees. There's no obligation. This is not an MLM. This is not you got recurring fees, or there's no catch, okay? People are going to sign up, give up their name and their email, and make their password. They accept the terms and conditions, and they go right through. And that's the way it works. So you don't have to buy every month or none of that kind of stuff.
and I'm sure others as well. But I going back to nature, I think something that was coming to mind when you were speaking about nature and some of the prophecies, and even the AI, is the story about the two wolves, and which one do we want to be? You know, do we want to be the good wolf or the bad wolf? Because we're both. We're both. You know, we've been in the Buddhist tradition. We've been everything. We've been everything. We've been human. We've been ET. We've been good. We've been bad. We've been angels. We've been demons. We've been everything and everything in between, including animals and everything. So we kind of are hopping around the universe, having all these different experiences, and it's up to us to decide which wolf we want to be. And I do have a very strong Native American connection as well. I was one of those children, Kimberly, that used to remember their past lives when I was younger, and I didn't find out who he was until God, when was that? I think 2000 it was. And I call him Many Moons, but he was a Dakota.
Yeah.
So I have a big connection to the Native Americans.
Well, you know, the thing that I really find fascinating, and many people don't know this, but when the Europeans came to America, and they encountered the Seneca Nation, was the ones in the Northeast, and actually a big part of our Declaration of Independence is taken from theirs, except ours says all men are created equal. Theirs says all are created equal. In other words, men, women, plants, animals, stones, rivers, sky, grass, right? And in this way, the Native American cultures see everything as their relations. So instead of something to be dominated, you know, they say, oh, well, that's my sister, the plant, or that's my brother, the wolf, right? And so it gives you a completely different perspective on it, as opposed to, the Christian dogma, which was man was given dominion over the earth. And I think that when we get into that power over dynamic, it really stops the energetic flow, right? This whole domination thing, right? It's the real energy is power with. And I'm not quite sure. I mean, the dominator model must be quite attractive if you're the strongest one in the room, right? but to me, that really feels like just the energetic subtlety that, you know, like this is why psychopaths always rise to the top of organizations, because they're the only ones that care about having this power over others. And so, to my mind, this is kind of one of the things that is really foundational that we need to grapple with as we, as we look at these changing energies, right? So, how is it that we can evolve from a power over dynamic to more of a power with? And I think it's going to be tough as long as we're in this dualism, this dualistic way of thinking. So that's a lot of words, but over to you.
Well, I just keep as you're talking, I just keep going back to, when the white man infiltrated and invaded Native America. I've always seen them as, well, not always, because I didn't see that as a child, but nowadays I see them as part of the elites, and the ancient negative 13 families, going back. That's how I see them, and they are. I don't see them as being human. I see them as being negative ET energy and inhumane, and wanting to control and manipulate and have dominance over sacred people, which is just horrendous. But I think we are going back to more nature and Granny's day. There was a deliberate plan, which, in hindsight, which is very evident when we look back to our Granny's day, because I remember making butter and cheese and all of that stuff with my granny, and there wasn't any immigration then, not in the way that we have it now. They've moved us out into the big cities. Just the whole thing is like, it's just diabolical what they've done.
Well, and then they told everybody that farmers were stupid and uneducated, and nobody wanted to be a farmer, and everybody, get your education, move to the city, have a career, and basically disconnected people even further from the land. And that's really a shame, but I hear you. Yeah, that's definitely a problem that we have.
It is. It is. And there's part of me that often aches and longs for Ireland the way it used to be, even the simple thing of having a natural fire in the home. No one has them anymore because everyone's built new homes, and they now have central heating, which we know is really bad for us. And the water's so polluted and toxified, and pollutions, and like we're bombarded from every direction. But I think we are going back to more of growing our own food and more community and going back to nature. I think that's definitely something that's going to happen in our lifetime. Maybe not totally, we're not going to see droves of people, but gradually, slowly, it's going to be a process where, and that's already started. I mean, people have moved, away from the cities. And then, of course, you've got the 15-minute cities. It's like they've.
I'm living in one, by the way. My city is on the map for a 15-minute city. One of only two in Florida, and so I'm looking to move before 2020.
Kimberly. That surprises me, because I've seen since 2019 or 2020, I always thought that Florida was kind of a free state.
Well, it's having worked on Wall Street and with these billionaires for a lot of years, I understand how they operate. And so a lot of people don't remember that Ron DeSantis was cheering the shots, and in fact subsidized the local grocery chain to offer them for free very early on. And we were locked down, and we did have mask mandates, and there were a lot of things happening here that everybody wants to forget about now. And so, and by the way, Florida is one of the only states that put in the real ID over 10 years ago. We've had that on our driver's licenses for a long, long time. So, yeah, so look, it's politics, you know, and these guys, you know, that's the thing. You can't trust the politicians, you know. But yeah, no. I am grateful though that I'm here and not in New York, where I was living for many, many years. I would have fared much worse. And but yeah, but yeah, I don't know why people don't. But the thing that I'm worried about, I'll tell you what I'm worried about. Elon Musk.
Mm.
I'm also curious because he looks a lot different. I've been hearing from people that this is the bad Trump that we're seeing, and you know, all of that sort of thing. But honestly, you know, you have to judge a tree by its fruit. And as far as I can tell, you know, Elon is creating all of the things that are necessary for the New World Order, you know, okay, so we got the brain chips. And, oh, it's so helpful for the quadriplegic. But, you know, I tell people, again, this is where my finance training comes in. That does not a market make. You know, you've got to have high volume, and the only way to get high volume is to get this in millions of units, not hundreds of units for quadriplegic. So this is being used to get people to accept it. So the brain chip. And by the way, a lot of young people today are anxious to get one. You know, so there's that. And then we have the robots. Then we have the Starlink. And then we have the electric self-driving vehicles. Last time I checked, Starlink, wasn't there a movie? I think it was called Terminator. It was like robots and the star... What was it called again? I mean, you know, come on, people. It's like, get the plot. And then he shows up, you know, his mother is a Satanist. My guess is he's probably, you know, one of those families that's, you know, been MK Ultra'd for generations. That's my read of the general thing with Elon. And then he shows up in these satanic costumes and things like that. So, you know, honestly, I'm not somebody who's a big fan of his. He worries me. Although, you know, I'm also somebody who's not sure about Trump, and especially J.D. Vance with his Peter Thiel connection. Although that came out in the Epstein files, we'll see if that has any impact on Thiel and Vance. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know how that's going to turn out, but right now, it seems like, and then we have Howard Lutnick, who a lot of people forget that Howard Lutnick was one of the ones that was on TV crying on 9/11, 2001, because all of his colleagues had been killed in the World Trade Center, but lucky him, he hadn't gone in that day.
Lucky him. Yes, I heard about that.
Yeah.
He was due to go in and he changed his mind.
Right. So, you know, and I was in New York on 9/11. I watched the whole thing. And so, you know,
physically?
Yeah, physically I was there. I worked on 40th and 3rd on a high floor, and so we saw the whole thing. In fact, somebody's like, "Oh my God, come and look. A plane ran into the World Trade Center." We all go in and we're like, and then somebody brings in a TV and they're like, "It's an air traffic control error." I'm like, what are you talking about? Air traffic control? Are you insane? You can see that for miles. Yeah.
But did you actually see the plane going in?
And didn't see a plane either time. So we were standing there, you know, looking at it. And I remember I went down and I smoked a cigarette and I came back up. And then so we're looking at it, and all of a sudden this big explosion comes out of the other tower. Never saw planes on either one. I don't think there were planes. That's my personal opinion. But then I was like, oh shit, I don't think this is over, right? Because I'm looking, oh look, there's the Empire State Building and there's the Chrysler Building. And, you know, so, you know, from my perspective, I was like, oh, well, and they'd shut down everything. So the first thing I do, and then my friends were like, oh, you could stay with me because I was living on Long Island. I was like, no, if I'm going to die today, I'd rather die at home. And so I went to there was a Sports Authority on 3rd Avenue, and I bought the last adult-sized bike. And men behind me were buying little kiddie bikes. It was funny. And a helmet and a, what do you call it, a radio headset and a backpack and some comfortable shoes because, of course, I was wearing pantyhose and pumps. And so, because I figured I could ride the bike 25 miles, but I would have a harder time walking. And so I went over the 59th Street Bridge on foot and then found out that the Long Island Railroad was running at, so it was like a 5-mile ride, went down and sat on the train. So it was trippy. It was a trippy day in New York City.
And I know there's reports, I've seen video clips of a woman reporting about it before it actually happens.
Oh, yeah, the Solomon Brothers building. Yes, it was a BBC reporter, I think. She's like, yeah, the Solomon Brothers building has come down in New York, and it's sitting there right behind her, and you're like, hello.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have ways of, and you know, all of these things are mind control, really at their heart. It's to influence the way you perceive.
Yes.
And
the TV programming.
Yes.
And everything is in plain sight. But going back to what you were saying, I just wanted to share that my understanding of Trump and Elon and, you know, the elites, especially those two, is that they have several clones or doubles, and some of them are good and some of them are bad, and that for some reason both of them are in the public eye and the media, but for some reason Trump and the good guys are not publicly saying, well, that's a clone and that's a bad Trump. So I don't know why they're not doing that, but that is my understanding, that there are doubles that are separate doubles that are working both sides.
Yeah, you know, it's really beyond me, you know, and as soon as you say I know, you definitely don't know. I don't really know, but so also one thing I do know is Trump is an excellent con man, because I went to Trump University and I have the bankruptcy to show for it. And my mom had to file for bankruptcy because it was such a scam. But they're very good at getting people to sign up for these things. In fact, did you know there's an industry called Speak Income, where they teach you how to speak and just make income? And so what I do know is that he has an incredible ability to deceive. And so if the Q thing is real, you know, because I have a lot of friends that are, you know, following Q, and okay, so that may be true. One question that I asked one of the Q fellows, Patrick Gunnels, he was on Dr. Lee Merritt's show. I said, so Patrick, what does Q say about, what do the drops say about AI, and what do the drops say about technocracy? And he got really flustered, and he's like, instead of just telling me, he's like, oh, well, you can go here and look it up. So I did. Guess what? There's not a single drop that talks about either of those topics. So what I'm thinking is, what if
unknown caller?
What if Q is an AI? And it's getting everybody, keeping all the people quiet until the digital prison is complete. It's a thought, right? So this whole business of the white hats and the plan, what is the plan? Is the plan AI technocracy?
The Q.
I don't know. I don't know. Things that make me, you know, wonder.
I think, you know, if with the whole Q thing, I find it very disappointing that they just stopped. I don't know what they're doing now, but they just stopped. It was like they really just pulled back and left us to in boats without paddles. And one of the questions I ask myself, and sometimes my partner, is like, where are they? What are they doing? How are they assisting us? And why are they not getting in touch with behind the scenes with the people, with the likes of Laura Eisenhower or Brad Olson? Why are those two groups not working together?
Right.
Because surely, for God's sake, surely those two groups should be working together.
Right. Well, I mean, there is the, the whole idea of operational secrecy. I get that. If you're doing an operation, then you really, you have to you have to deceive the enemy, because if they know what you're doing, you're going to lose. But I also, and Carrie Cassie and I have talked about this a lot too, and she also is a little impatient with the whole thing, because I'm sorry, 70,000 children and women are dead in Gaza, and more get blown up every single day. And now we've got, I'm sorry, Trump Gaza. I mean, what? I'm sorry, if this is the plan, I don't want any part of it. And then the whole idea of, saving that country for last, as in never, So I don't know. I mean, I think that if it would be a brilliant psyop, right? And it just occurred to me that there's no way that a human could be that accurate in terms of the date deltas and the times and all of that. So, gee, what if it is an AI doing that? So I don't know. I mean, who knows? But for my part, I'm just like, say no to AI.
Yes.
And somebody actually wrote I don't know if you've read Tolkien. J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings.
No, I've seen some of the movies.
Oh, okay. I read all those books like 10 times when I was a teenager. Really loved J.R.R. Tolkien. But he wrote a book called, I think it was called Mount Doom. And the whole thing about the Tolkien story, it's very much like Star Wars, where there's this ring of power and men keep thinking they can use it for good, but it ends up destroying them. So really the thing has to be destroyed. And so it has to be thrown into Mount Doom, right, and destroyed. And so he says that Tolkien wrote that as an analogy for AI and technocracy, as a warning. So I don't know if that's true or not, but and maybe it's just because I'm old. Young people are. I mean, if you took away their technology, they would. I mean, they can't even make change. I mean, I don't know what they would do. So it's a tricky place that we're in, right? Because we're right in the middle of it. The younger generations are sort of born cable ready, and then the older folks like me are, struggling to, work the iPhone.
Yes,
So
I know. I know.
I'm not quite sure how it's going to come out, but I don't know. So the Pleiadians say that it's all going to be. We're going to ascend, and the outcome is going to be positive.
Yes, they've always said that to me, because because it affects, it's too humongous. Like, it affects the whole universe. It's not just Earth and humanity itself, but there's everything that's alive and out there, like other planets, suns, moons, and star systems. The universe is teeming with life.
Right.
And the truth of our reality is so far-fetched. No doubt I can understand why it's unbelievable, because we've been led down such a wrong path, or manipulated to such a point that we don't even know who we are, where we came from, or why we're here. We have no idea about our own kind of internal power and our cosmic connection and our history and our science and our math and astrology, and let alone, the simple things like what's beneath the pyramids, which are thousands of years old.
Right.
And or sacred sites, or stones, or trees, and like, we've been lied to on such a mass scale. There's so much there.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I've found too is you know, the plants, the trees, they're all sentient. In fact, when I was doing my shamanic herbal apprenticeship, one of the things that we did was we chose a plant ally to ally with for our apprenticeship, which was 6 weeks long. And the only thing that you could not do was look in a book about it. You couldn't read about it. So you had to so the first week you just sat with the plant, breathing with it. And, you know, and then the second week, you know, you could like draw it. And then the third week you could touch it and, you know, so on. And eventually she would tell you her name and what she's useful for. And so, you know, they have the ability to communicate with us. But I'll tell you what really interferes is the man-made frequencies, the technology, because it's too regular, and nature is more chaotic in terms of its sounds. So it doesn't like that, you know, regularity. And so part of what we did during the apprenticeship, we weren't allowed to listen to any kind of recorded music while we were there. And when I finished, I went home and I could hear things that I can no longer hear now. I could hear the hum of the earth. I could hear certain sounds, right, emanating from the earth, which I can't hear now because there's too much, you know, static. But I think that, you know, when we see that all of nature is alive and, you know, does it have a soul? I don't know. I think it must, but what is a soul anyway? I mean, I don't, you know, it's the eternal part of us. And, you know, I think that we're all just family, you know, whether it's the stars, we know that we're made of the same stuff as, you know, stardust. And whether, you know, so if we were to only start looking at everything as being a big family as opposed to, I don't know, we take this really like defensive stance against everything, and I'm not quite sure where that comes from. Do you have a thought about that? Where does it come from, this negative energy?
I think, well, I just, you know, I just see it as being part of the negative agenda and the cabal or the Illuminati or the elites or the 13 families. But for me, I always like to kind of see the bigger picture. And I think it's negative ET energy. I think they've just invaded the planet and taken over and changed our DNA and dumbed us down to the point we've forgotten. And of course amnesia as well. So that I always go back to that, Kimberly, you know, which is quite out there for normal people. And I haven't really learned to explain it in a different way, because I did very much come in back to front. You know, I came in with a great gift, but at the same time, also very kind of out of balance, because I'm so aware, but I wasn't aware of. But I was very ungrounded with it. So that's my lesson, really, part of my own personal kind of life lesson, is to bring in that energy and anchor it down through my body and be here now, because I've got a tendency to leave when I don't like what's going on.
Right. Well, you know, the soul force, you know, in our training, you know, what we learned was that we have the life force, which is the body, and it only has the body. And then there's the soul force, which is eternal. And so a lot of times it's the life force that's freaked out about, oh my gosh, you know, something's going to happen to this body and then I won't exist anymore. Where the soul force is like, yeah, so what? You know, so what? You're an eternal being. You'll change form, or you won't have form, and you'll continue. So it's a lot of it is that life force. You know, and you can see it actually in the final kicks of an animal, you know, because the body is trying to hang on to that, you know, the life force is trying to hang on to that body.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, I think that we're all going to be fine. I mean, and the other thing too, I think that's important is, I was talking about this with a friend of mine the other day. So there are trillions of things that happen every single day in the world, and the vast majority of those are positive things, or at least neutral. But the only things that are chosen to get on the news are the really scary, horrific things. You know, if it leads, it bleeds. And so I think that, you know, as we move through our lives, just acknowledging that, oh, okay, that's the thing that they picked to, you know, throw in to scare everybody, but to also appreciate all of the other, you know, the vast majority of things that are going well. You know, I know this beautiful woman in Ireland, and she has an amazing connection with the Pleiadians. Isn't it grand? And isn't it grand that we can use this technology to speak across the ocean? You know, so how you look at a thing changes it, changes your experience of it. And the example I always give is, I was out harvesting stinging nettle with my apprentice sister during my apprenticeship, and it was hot. And the stinging nettle plants are like 6 feet tall, and they sting in me, and I'm hot, and I'm cranky, and I'm complaining. Ow, 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 it hurts. And then my apprentice sister looks over and she goes, you know, I think of it more like energy than pain. And you know, in that instant, it changed for me. It was like, ooh, ooh, now it's energy. Now we can play with it. Ooh, now it's fun. You know, now I'm like banging it on myself, right? To get that feeling, right? Whereas before it was like pain and something to shy away with. Now it was, ooh, now it's energy. Now it's something that we can play with. And we have that choice about every single thing. So whether you think the world is going to end or not, you can always find a better feeling thought, right? It's going to make you happier, I guess is the message. So
I think
go ahead.
I think meditation is key in stepping back from the outside world and the chaos and the negativity that comes from the media, and which of course, you know, we know is deliberate. But I think stepping back into ourselves and nature is crucial, and meditation is key. You know, a lot of the different cultures around the different religions, like Buddhism around the world, they do teach that meditation is a key to is an important key to quieten the mind and let go of fear and negativity and all of that, you know, all of that negative kind of monkey mind chatter.
Well, and they say that, you know, fear is really, you know, the absence of love, right? So it's basically a door. So fear's on one side, love's on the other. It's either one or the other. If it's not love, it's fear. So I don't know. Oh, that's interesting. It gave me a hand signal on the react button when I did that. AI, I guess. How strange. But yeah, so you know, if something is scaring you, then I think the best thing you can do is, first of all, breathe, because usually we tend to hold our breaths, right, when we're afraid. So remember to breathe, and then really evaluate what it is that's scaring you about that. So what's the worst that could happen? You know, and generally we have our you know, we create things to scare ourselves. So let me give you a good example. So this is a parable we use in my old apprentice sisters and I. So here's a riddle. There's a live duck, and it's in a glass bottle, but the glass bottle has a really narrow opening. So the question is, how do you get the duck out of the bottle without breaking the bottle or killing the duck? Go ahead. I'll give you as much time as you want.
Put water in it.
Well, silly. There couldn't possibly be a live duck in a glass bottle like described. I just made up something for you to fuss and worry about. And you'd be amazed at how long people will go with that sometimes. And so the point is that we call this duck in a bottle. So if I'm fussing and worrying about something, that I'm completely imagining, right? My apprentice sister would say, "Oh, that's a duck in a bottle." You know, just stop making up things to worry about, because our minds are really good at that. As you said, the monkey mind, right? It's making
Yes.
up something for you to be afraid about. And so when you can recognize it with a simple thing like that, oh, that's a duck in a bottle. Oh, that's a duck in a bottle. It's so helpful because you can laugh at yourself while you do it, right? So that's just one of the things that we learned when I was doing my apprenticeship.
You've frozen.
Have I
You've
frozen?
frozen, Kimberly.
Oh, I think it must be your end, darling. No, it's your end.
Oh, oh yes. I've got a notice up. My internet connection is unstable, but it
Oh,
should be okay.
all
It
right.
comes up sometimes. It's
Well,
raining.
oh, yeah, that's right. So we only have a few more minutes, and I'm sorry I've been talking so much. But talk about what you have going on. What do you have coming up? I know you also have your Starseed Academy. You have a lot of things that you work in community with. So tell me more about what you have going on and how people can get involved.
Thanks, Kimberly. So I've created the Cosmic Starseed Academy, which is specifically aimed at community and starseeds and helping them to kind of navigate ascension. And I also, within that, we have 3 groups a week. One is on Wednesday, one is on Saturday, and one is on Sunday. And those are at 7 p.m. the Irish time. The one at 8 p.m. the one on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Irish time. And within those 2 groups, I do channel the Pleiadians in sessions, and people get to ask questions, and we talk a lot about we talk about a lot of stuff. But it's really to create community and to connect starseeds together as well. There's a lot more that I know there's a lot more to come for me with the Pleiadian channeling and several books. I just don't know how I'm going to find the time to do everything, but I do have events coming up. One is going to be in Blarney Castle in Cork in Ireland.
Yeah.
I haven't written anything down about that yet, but if you're listening and you'd like to join that, I'm going to be recording it. So I'm not sure if I'll do it live or record it and then release it, but I'd like to make it available to a lot of people, because I think the land is so important, and I do seem to be being called back to the land. And of course, I understand that Atlantis was part of Ireland as well as part of America, and you know, when the land was connected physically. So I have a lot going on. I do readings, I do Pleiadian channelings, I do just a whole load of stuff. And
We'll put the
I
link
have
down
my
below in the show notes so that people can connect with you and get more of your teaching and more of your work. I know I've watched your shows on the recordings many times, and they're always quite enlightening. I love your energy. You know, there are certain people's energies that I am attracted to and that I seem to resonate with. Certain other people, not quite so much. And I never know really what the purpose of the resonance is, but I'm more than happy to just jump in and you know, and play the song and see what happens.
I've been so blessed, Kimberly, to be able to channel them, but it's come, and I haven't been so blessed in other areas of my life. I've been very lacking. But it was through trauma that I really connected with them from a very young age, and I was blessed actually not to enter, not to have the secondary education. I didn't always feel like that, but now I understand that they really kept me out of it because they wanted me to continue to channel them, which is what I've done. So in that sense, I'm very blessed, you know, to be able to have maintained that connection with them, because I think a lot of children, you know, that they're so special and they're so connected to the earth and nature and spirit, and they're so innocent. And then of course they enter the school system, which is by design, and then a lot of children are everything is drummed out of them. They yeah.
They're disconnected, or they're told, no, that doesn't exist. You're making that up. It's all in your mind. And yes, and I think it's it's people like you and people like me to help remind them that they're actually the most perfect, whole and holy beings. And in fact, I think that's important for everyone to remember. You're created perfect. You're created whole. You're created holy. You don't need something to complete you. You don't need a savior. You don't need, source lives inside of you. And you're not all of source, but a piece of source lives inside of you. And so when we can see that in others, then it changes our whole perspective, that a piece of the source lives in you. And I think that's what the namaste really means, right? Is I honor the source in you, the source in me. Our spiritual selves connect. So, yeah, and, I have to say it too. I think that I think that we have not seen women as fully human in our societies for many, many years, thousands of years. And I think that the energy that woman brings to the table is different than the energy that man brings. And we've hobbled ourselves by disallowing the woman energy to really enter into the picture. So, for example, if you look at the Seneca Nation, the Iroquois Great Peaceful Nations in the northeast of the United States, they're matrilineal. And so when the husband moves into the mother's longhouse, the wife's mother, and then if the wife wants to break up with him, she just puts his things out, and he moves out. And they have a chief who runs the men, but he reports to the grandmothers, to the Council of Grandmothers. And so this is the way that they have lived for millennia. And in fact, they were quite confused when the European settlers came, because they had no women with them. And in these cultures, it was mainly the women that did the negotiating. So it was quite fascinating. So I think that just knowing that is empowering. And so, we see through this Epstein file release that there are many, many, many men who don't really see women as, quote, all the way human, end quote. And in fact, that was a quote from a 16-year-old boy who'd been involved in a gang rape. And when they asked him, why were you involved in this? And he's like, well, we just don't see girls as all the way human. We've reached a place where that's become really detrimental to our continuation as humanity. So I think it's time that we start to appreciate women in our society as fully human.
I think in the past, I've often had glimpses of it in our ancient history of where there was a time when women, I don't want to use the word ruled, but that's kind of how I see it, when they were in charge and revered as being sacred, divine feminine. And that's really something that the negative agenda has squashed. And with a male dominant energy. And of course, I grew up in Hackney in London, which was impoverished, and a lot of aggressive male energy. And I think we're coming away from that now. I think the energy is really shifting. But I think that's going to be a slow process. Mm-hmm. It's like it's almost like the galactic grandmothers have such an ancient wisdom and a divine feminine energy, and it's almost like the negative ET energy has tried to really squash it, not just at one of the highest levels, but also on Earth.
Well, again, it's that power over dynamic, right? This thing where you don't want the yin yang to spin, right? Masculine, feminine. You want the masculine to just boom, be atop and dominating. Women and nature, by the way.
Yeah.
Women have always been associated with nature. So I'm hopeful, I'm hopeful that, as in the King Arthur legends, if you recall, it was the king had to marry the land in order for, the land to thrive. So the whole Grail idea was the union of the masculine and the sacred feminine so that the land would thrive. And so I hope that we'll get back to that at some point in time.
That would be that would be great. I think I think particularly men need to really balance and also women need to balance their male female energy, because we both have both. But I've never kind of agreed with feminism, because I think when you take that to the extreme, that's also the same thing in reverse, or the opposite side of it. So I'm more about unity consciousness and, seeing everyone as equal, and compassion, and also forgiveness. But there has been some horrendous things done which we're finding out recently, on women and children, which is just it's not even human, the stuff they've been doing, And I'm kind of surprised that it's in the mainstream media, like the Sun newspaper, which is in the UK, is one of the tabloid papers. I'm surprised, actually, that but it's fantastic to see it in the mainstream media. I think that's a huge shift.
Well, people know about it now, at least, or they believe it. I mean, because Kathy O'Brien has been on my show multiple times, and she's been screaming about this for 30 years. And, she's like, it's like running out of a hell. You come running out of a hell nobody believes exists. And so for her, she's, at least people are starting to see now that it exists. And, but boy, talk about one of the most loving people you'll ever meet. So you really can heal from no matter what it is that you've experienced. We are created perfect and whole and holy. Health is our natural state, including mental health. And so unless something knocks you off of that state, that's really your birthright. And so that's what I, try to help people understand, is because a lot about being healthy is also about your mindset. If you talk, and if you're about sickness and you're fearful of sickness, then you'll probably be sick. So. Yeah. All right, well, go ahead.
We're creator beings, we really do create our own reality, and we manifest what we focus on and think about. And we haven't yet realized that that's what we're doing. Our thoughts, we create daily, on a daily basis, by what we're thinking and feeling and how we are, and, whether we're in a good space or not. And so we need to get back to realizing how powerful we are, and how we really are creator beings, and we've created this whole shit show.
We have indeed, and we can create a better future. And the thing that I love the most is, and this really helped me, is somebody, and this was years ago before I even knew about Abraham, but somebody was teaching this class, and they were talking about, we're doing prayer all wrong. We're praying the problem. And the universe doesn't hear the word, God doesn't hear the word no and don't. So, dear God, please don't make me sick. Please don't make me poor. Sick, poor. God hears sick, poor. Okay, here you go, sick, poor. The universe doesn't hear that. You're vibrating sick and poor. So law of attraction says, okay, here you go, sick and poor. So the key is to pray the solution. Or even better, just be grateful. Just find something to appreciate. And it really does work. It's incredible. It really is incredible. I don't know. I mean, it's been the most impactful thing on my life is just understanding that we can control our thoughts. We can choose a better feeling thought. We can choose how to move forward in our heads. And how we move forward in our heads determines how we move forward in our lives. Isn't that great?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it amazing?
It is.
I mean, we are so powerful. So, all right, Soma, I guess I'll let you go for this time. It's been a long time since we were together, and I hope that there'll be another time when you come back to the States. I'm hoping they'll do full disclosure now again in St. Pete, but I don't know. I know he's got a place in Arizona now, so it's probably unlikely. But yes, hopefully sometime or someplace we'll see each other again and be able to embrace, which is always nice to see each other on the physical.
Yeah, there's something very special about the physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to. I love Florida. It's just, I love Florida. I knew I would because of the weather and the sun and just everything. I just loved it. And I actually found myself, I can't remember what it was called now, but it used to be a native land, a little island somewhere. And I managed to find it. I felt like I was led there, actually.
We have burial mounds here in St. Petersburg. Indian burial mounds. So, I don't know. There's also a huge psychic community in Casadega in Florida.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I guess you're going to have to move, Soma.
Well, I need to get more creative. I'm kind of clearing a backlog of stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely need to start manifesting.
Yeah. Well, just set your ask and it's given. Ask and go get happy. And stop thinking about it. The universe will put it together for you. That's what I finally realized because I'm a real control freak, So I want it to be my way,
Yeah.
But what I realized is that when I insist on doing it my way, I'm missing out, right? Because the universe could bring it in completely unexpected ways. And by trying to control it, I'm actually limiting it.
Yes.
So you'll get down here. And hey, look, I'm in real estate and I do mortgages, so we'll definitely have to talk and get you into Florida. But yeah, it's beautiful where you are. I've never been to Ireland. I've always wanted to go there. I've been to Scotland and, the UK and places like that. So hopefully someday I'll get to the Emerald Isle. I hear it's absolutely beautiful.
You should come over, definitely. It's beautiful here, apart from the weather.
What's the best time of year to visit Ireland?
I would say June, July, August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got to get my passport updated, so.
Yes. Yes.
All right, my dear. Anything last words you want to leave with the audience before we go?
Love wins.
Love wins.
Love wins. And also, love is a frequency that can be created because it can be, sorry, let me rephrase that. Love is a frequency that can be measured. Anything that can be measured can be created. So step into the love frequency and create it. It's a game changer. It really is.
It really is. I completely agree. Well, thank you so much, Soma. Until the next time, I wish you green blessings and may it be in beauty. Thank you, dear.
Thank you, Kimberly. And much love to you, sister.
Much love to you. Bye for now.